Welcome to Live 89 FM. It's your boy KB Tindal. You're now tuned into the Essence. And this week I have I can't even call him a special guest. You know what I'm saying? This is like my man, and it's been a minute since we linked up. You know what I mean? He's overseas now and he's doing his thing musically. My man Abe, what's going on, B?
Was good, KB? Yeah, man, it's doing my thing. Out here with the whole COVID situation. I hope everyone is doing well back home too. So
Yeah,
it's getting
yeah.
worse everywhere.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy right now, definitely, man. But thank you for joining me on Validated Radio, man. I know you've seen the magazine, you've seen Validated Magazine. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And the people that we get, we try to stay close to the spitters. You know what I mean?
Right,
The
right,
guys
right.
that are really saying something. You know what I mean? So
Hard heavy.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? So I do a segment each week and it's called The Essence, where I bring up different topics about, hip hop culture, just culture in general,
Right.
the music as well, and just try to just give the people some type of food for thought. You know what I mean?
Right.
Give them
Right.
some
Right.
food for thought. So this week what I wanted to talk about um was the deaths that are going on in hip hop.
Yeah.
You know,
Unfortunately.
yeah. This is not something that's new to hip hop, unfortunately. But
Hmm.
most recently, Mo3 a couple of days ago, got killed in Texas, and apparently he actually got out of his car and was running down the highway in broad daylight. You know what I mean? And
Oh
and and,
wow.
and got hit up. And
Oh shit.
a few days before that, it was King Vaughn in Atlanta. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, like I said, this is nothing new to hip hop, and it kind of sucks. Like what really pisses me off the most is that this is the only genre of music where
That
we
does.
kill each other. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
even from the '90s when Big and Pac and all of that and stuff, like it's consistently been going on for years. There's not a year that goes by that we don't lose somebody in hip hop to some type of gun violence. You know what I mean?
Right.
What's your take on that right now?
Well, I was actually watching I watched the interview that well, not an interview, just a quick take that Gilly the Kid
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
mentioning about the Vaughn situation, and I gotta completely agree with what he said. These are kids that grow in the inner city, the jungles, of the inner
yeah.
city, and they get blessed with an opportunity to change everything for their life, not only for them but like for family or for their close peers and stuff like that. And it's a shame that, because he said, not everyone's blessed with that talent. God doesn't give everyone that opportunity to be able to do that.
Right,
And
right.
basically saying it's okay to grow old. Like, all these young kids, I don't know if it's just because of social media or if it's a trend. And nobody wants to look, especially if you're from the hood. You don't want to, you're not gonna let somebody press up on you and not want to retaliate. Or in the age of social media, everyone has a camera. And especially growing up like that, you're not going to let somebody do something to you without you retaliating in some
Right.
way or form. So I feel like a lot of that has to do with just the influence of what people really kind of, how they see hip hop. For example, the whole situation with being called a rat or blah 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 and all this. Most of these people don't even live under that situation, right?
Right,
So
right.
who are we to say things and about somebody else's life, how they live, and in that case. But I mean, in that particular case, it's very unfortunate, because you're right. Since the '90s, since I could remember, it's been a gun violence and murder. Hip hop artists being murdered to gun violence has been heavy, man, and it's
Yeah,
unfortunate
man.
because a lot of these are very talented, and they're
Yeah,
great storytellers. and,
yeah.
and then their life has to get cut short. And like Gilly said too, these people don't want you to win, and it's our own people that don't want
don't want you to
don't
win.
want to want exactly,
Yo,
and that's the unfortunate. That's the sad thing, it's the whole
yeah,
crab bucket effect. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So
yeah,
I
yeah.
I feel that way. So
That's like,
definitely,
that the mentality of us as people of color wanting to hurt each other is something
mm,
that's been instilled from generations and generations and generations ago, coming from slavery days. You know what I mean?
right,
Where you had, quote unquote, the house nigga or the field nigga. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And that concept carries over today. You know what I mean? It
right,
carries over because you can't even make it in your own neighborhood without somebody trying to kill you off. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly,
like
exactly.
God bless Nipsey Hussle, man. But the way that he
Mm.
the way that he got murdered, man, was just, I mean,
That
I
shit was
can't even,
unethical, man.
like, I don't even have a word for it because it should have
Right,
never happened. It should have never
exactly.
happened. You know,
Especially in your own neighborhood.
yeah, in your own
Especially in your
neighborhood, in
own
front of your
neighborhood.
own business. I
Yeah,
mean, and the only reason somebody felt like they could do that and get away with it is because they've probably seen it done before, or they grew up in a neighborhood, in a community where they constantly experience death. So they got PTSD to that shit anyway. It don't affect us
right,
once you see it so many times and you come from that environment. It doesn't affect you like it affects people on the outside. You know what I mean?
right,
and
right,
and and he felt as though he was justified in doing whatever he did for whatever reason he did it for. I wasn't there, so, and I'm not in the inner circle, so this is me commenting from the outside looking in. But but
right,
on, but
right.
on the same accord, it's like damn, man, like, we don't have we're like the only race of people that fucking do that shit. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like,
right.
I mean,
Like you
there's
don't see
no,
that shit in country music. Yeah,
yeah.
you don't see that shit in country music or
You
pop
know what I'm
music.
saying? Yeah,
You
like,
don't
I
see
mean, you
Justin
never
Bieber
see rock
going
and
at it.
roll artists kill each other or beat each other up at shows, and
Yeah,
like, you just never seen that shit, man. It just
yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me, man. You know,
Mm,
I think that, and most of these young artists that are getting killed, they're getting killed before they even get a chance to really take off, man.
right,
Like, they
right,
just started getting some money. They just started changing their family situation. They just started changing their kids' situation, their own situation, and then all of a sudden, boom, to be snatched
right.
by, one of your peers, basically. A
Yeah,
peer of yours that just may be down with another crew or another clique or from another city or from another state, but still, y'all are all in the rap game. You're all trying to get rap money. You're all trying to do something positive, but over some bullshit, somebody gets killed. You
and
know?
that's the fucked up part about it again, the most. And it's like Vaughn was one of those artists that had that potential that he was already on his way.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and he had a lot to show for it.
yeah.
I got a chance to listen to his album um about well yeah actually a week before he passed and to be fair I don't really like that type of music like the whole
Right,
drill thing
right,
it's not my flavor but
right.
I was definitely impressed he
I
definitely
was impressed too.
bring
I
back
saw I saw a couple of
storytelling. There
videos
was
of
a lot of
his.
exactly. There
Yeah,
was there was a lot of storytelling that I felt like it was like
exactly,
reminiscent
exactly.
from the '90s. When you had
Yeah,
Pac, Biggs, and Big L and stuff like that. And
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's their own. It's just it's unfortunate to me. It's very unfortunate. These rappers and you just need to like and again a lot of people they're not just rappers they have the past they have their street life
Right.
they're still dedicated to the street a lot of them but like Gilly
Most of the,
said
yeah,
like yo
one foot in,
yeah
one foot out. Yeah, yeah,
but once you have that one foot out you should be able to feel okay with having completely your next foot out the way
hmm,
and getting out because like he said not everyone is blessed with the ability to do that and
right,
if you're giving that talent don't waste it don't yeah, I
right.
understand. You still have loyalty for your partners in the hood and everything, and you don't want to seem like you don't want no part of them or anything like that. But at the same time, there's a way that you can do both without you really putting yourself in danger. And
Yeah,
I mean, the most part that I feel like it was even more fucked up is that it happened in Atlanta. It didn't even happen in his own city, you know?
Yeah.
And that's that it's the envy is everywhere, man. I
I
think
just
envy is
yeah,
everywhere.
exactly. It's
Everywhere you
definitely
go.
envy that can come from anybody from anywhere in any city. You know, I was listening to Drink Champs, and I was listening
Mm,
to and they were talking to Jay Prince, you know,
mm,
and he just had so many good points about how people should move, but on the other hand, he had a lot of good points about how a lot of these young artists, these young boys, think that things should be a certain way because that's all they know. They haven't
right,
grown. They haven't grown enough or seen enough to approach certain situations in a different way. Their
correct.
their first their first reaction is, "Oh, you say something slick, we gonna get it popping right now, regardless.
Right, right.
Whether it's with the hands, well, it ain't even with the hands nowadays. It's just strictly with
Now,
the
no.
guns. In my days, it was
But
like you could take an ass whipping and you could give an ass whipping. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And you
and
still
walk
live to
away.
see the yeah,
Yeah,
you still live to see the next day.
yeah,
Nowadays,
yeah.
it's totally different. You know what I mean? But
But
but he was
let me cut you off really quick, KB. I want to ask you this. Um, what do you think the difference is now? Because again, you had people that were with the shits back in the 90s, like a Master P,
right,
like a J Prince,
right,
but still moved certain ways. They like you said, they were able to pick their situations, their battles good, well, and know how
right.
to move. What do you think is the difference? What lacks in this generation? What do you think is the difference? Or for me, for example, I think like the biggest difference would be the fact that you're influenced by everything due to social media. A lot of other people are on social networks and shit like that. Your fans, they're gonna gas you up. They're gonna want to
Mhm.
gas you up, and they're gonna want to make you do all this type of shit that you know you normally won't do. Because according to King Von's manager, he said that day was pretty off. Um, Von is a type of person because of how he grew up. He
Mhm.
moves very strategic, and for
Mhm.
some reason that day he was just like it was off.
He was
So
probably
what do
in.
you
He
think?
was in it. He was probably in Atlanta and probably felt a little loose,
Yeah, yeah.
and things happen. Yeah, go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
so what do you think the difference? What do you think is the difference on how why you still had people with the shits back in the day, like in the 90s, again, like your I think the only person that was the most reckless back in the 90s was Pac. And you hear multiple interviews from other artists is like, no, Pac was like this dude where he's like, he just didn't give a fuck. He was gonna walk up to you,
Right,
spit on the
right,
cameras, and do all this shit, let it be known.
right.
But my question is like, what is the difference? Why we did have a lot
Well,
of people rap, hip hop artists get into that, but they didn't sort to like gun violence right away. They knew how to take an ass whooping, like you said, and move on from it,
yeah.
but or give it. But what is the difference you think from now than back then?
I think. I think. See, back then you had a lot of OGs that are well considered OGs now, but you had a lot of young guys back then that
Right,
they were getting money, but they were behind the scenes, of a
right,
lot of the prominent artists. You know what I mean? Um,
mm,
and I think that they were giving people an earful. You know what I mean? Like, nah, this is not how we do it. Because in our day, we didn't have, like you said, we didn't have social media. So
right,
if you knew somebody was getting money on a block or whatever, you just knew that. That wasn't something that you went out of state and told people about, or that you didn't talk about business that wasn't yours to talk about. You may
right,
talk about it between your selective few friends, you know what I mean, or something like that. But you didn't run your mouth. Like nowadays, you don't even have to run your mouth. Social media runs your mouth for you.
right, right,
You know what I mean? I also think that um, there was a disconnect somewhere. Like after the 80s and the 90s, when a lot of people went away, a lot of drug dealers went away for long sentences, you know, there was a disconnect between the older generation and the younger generation. So I think there was like a gap. There was like a
right,
gap missing where they weren't getting any jewels coming from the older people because the older dudes were locked up for 20, 30
Right.
years or whatever the case may be. A lot of them are
Right.
coming home now. You know, you're seeing them coming home now. They went down in the 80s and they're coming home now, or they went down in the 90s and they're coming home now. You know,
Right.
so there was a disconnect where you had a whole generation of dudes growing up without no OGs there to give them any kind of advice,
Right. Right.
right? So that disconnect right there creates an entirely new fucking problem, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
without any guidance, you're gonna start doing things the way that you want to. I mean, I was listening to a documentary a little while back, and they were talking about how the gang structure in Chicago broke down because all the heads of the gangs went to
Yeah,
prison,
when they took him out, yeah.
and then the
But after
young boys just got reckless. There was no more. There was. I mean, it's bad enough that we got gangs in our community, but to have things like that with no guidance and with no type of structure, that makes the game 1,000 times worse. And
worse,
that's
yeah.
why a lot of these that's why a lot of these young boys now, they want to get they automatically pull out guns. They automatically want to fight because they're afraid to fight. They're afraid to take an ass whooping. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And I think that comes from that disconnect. You know, you know, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, I remember you growing up with artists in the '80s where there was always some sort of gangster figure in the background. There was
Mhm.
always some gangster figure within the entourage.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? That was more powerful than the artist. You
Yeah.
know what
Like
I'm
yeah.
saying?
A good example would be like Irv and Ja with Supreme,
Yeah, that's one way to look
which
at it.
ended up
That's
giving
one
them
thing you can look
giving
at. Yeah.
and they beat that Rico case because they were it was that was
Uh,
crazy, man. That was
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I
And
mean,
but yeah,
but
I feel that. I definitely
that's a
feel that.
perfect example of having an OG around and saying, nah, like y'all are rap artists, so you in the record industry, bro. You don't need to move like
The
I
way
move over
we
here in these
right, right,
streets. You know what I mean?
right,
You need to be moving a different way because once again, back to what you were saying about what Gilly said. Once again, it goes back to that. It's like you got a chance, you got a gift, bro.
yeah,
You got a gift. My gift is hustling crack. Your gift is totally different than my gift. You know what I'm saying? And now you gotta, like I said, you got a lot of these cats coming home now and they're taking that hustle mentality and they're doing something positive with it and they're hustling something positive. But back then, that was the hustle. You know what I mean?
right,
That was the hustle. So, like I said, that disconnect, man, is something that's really, 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 really strong, man.
yeah,
Over the
yeah,
years, man, like you were saying, Big L, and I can remember like Soldier Slim and like a lot of people like Camouflage, like a lot of people that got killed from gun violence, you know, from all over, from ghettos all over. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it's just something that I think it's something that needs to be addressed. I think artists need
yeah,
to be talking about that shit.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
definitely.
I mean, we're
It,
past the generation of everything has to be about how much money you got, how much jewelry you got, how many broads you got, how many cars you got, how big your house is. We get it. We understand that. You getting money. Cool, no
right,
problem. Now what
right,
you gonna do? What kind of message are you gonna pass on? You know what I'm
right,
saying? And I think that that's where we get lost between the music that's out today as opposed to the shit that we like. You know
right,
what I'm
right,
saying?
exactly.
The
Yeah,
shit that
no,
we
it's a
like.
big difference. And you know what? Like it's sad again because this doesn't happen by a random person. It's ourselves that do it to one another.
Yeah.
Big L. There's rumors. I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that the person that killed Big L actually has a picture with him. Is one of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it's sad. It's
Same
sad
thing with
because
Nipsey. Like this guy was known in the neighborhood.
yeah,
For
yeah,
whatever reason, I don't
exactly.
know. We heard the rumors about what Nipsey supposedly said to him about being a snitch or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
I wasn't
The
there. I wasn't on the
speculation
front
about it.
line. I don't
Right.
know what happened. All I know is that
Right.
dude had to be known enough to be able to get into that square where the business was
Right.
and to be able to get close enough. Like he had to be from that.
Exactly.
He had to be from there. You know what I mean? He wasn't some
Exactly.
outsider that came in because if he was an outsider, somebody would have checked him immediately. You know what I mean? Um,
Oh yeah.
it's just
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
yeah, man. It's just crazy,
It's a
man.
sad thing, man. It's a sad thing because like that's another reason why hip hop is looked down upon like by people all over the world. You know, it's funny. You know, out here in Japan, they love hip hop a lot. And
Right.
one thing I always hear, the first thing they actually always ask me is like, "Yo, is it dangerous to be a rapper in the U.S.?" And I said, "Shit."
Really?
And
That's
like
a question you
that was
get?
a genuine question they asked me, and
Wow.
I didn't know how to answer that. I
Wow,
really
that's
didn't know how
crazy.
to answer that because it's like, how do you answer that?
I
Me,
guess they can't fathom our culture, being in love with our culture so much, but then seeing how we treat each other over here.
exactly, exactly, because it's just like, you know, they idolize people like and a lot of Japanese people out here that love hip hop, they don't really listen to the you know, the modern hip hop. You know, nowadays they listen to like
Yeah,
the older, you know, they know the story about Big and Pac. They know the
right.
West Coast versus the East
They
Coast,
know
you
Wu
know,
Tang.
rivalry and all that.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah,
it's just like, for them it's like, fuck, like, and I just tell them, like, you know what, it's unfortunate you these people are put in a position and they go with the wrong crowd, or you know, whatever the case may be, but it's an unfortunate thing, and yeah, it happens. And
yeah, man.
and like I said, for me, it's just, it's one of those questions that I don't really know how to answer. You know, I've
Yeah,
been rapping for a long time. You know, and yeah, I grew up in the hood and everything, and but still, you know, I can't I can't talk about things like that because it's not like I've ever done a drive by. I'm not gonna
right,
ever say that I've done a drive by. You know,
right.
I'm not ever gonna say like, yo, I've hit a lick before. I'm not gonna say shit like that because I didn't have to.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and again, I it was just a question that I couldn't answer. But yeah, man, it's unfortunate, and it sucks because hip hop is. I fell in love with hip hop just because of the beauty of the culture, man. The fact that it could bring so many people together, but
hmm,
yet you would think that it won't do that, or doesn't have that effect, because so many people within that culture tear each other down all the time.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and it goes the same with the dissing. You know, like, yeah,
hmm,
we love to hear a fucking competitive battle and shit
yeah. Of
like that, but
course,
again, like,
yeah,
Kiss isn't fucking dissing, you know, or Rolling Stones isn't dissing, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get that kind of shit like
yeah,
in other genres. It's like everyone knows that it's still a competition, but they don't they don't. I guess they don't perceive it as a competition.
right, right.
You know, and it's, I don't know if it's just the culture where it's like, nah, I'm striving to be the best. I'm gonna be the
Yeah,
best bar for bar, and of
and
course, like,
that's hip
somebody
hop.
else is gonna come in and say like,
Yeah,
yeah, you know, the
that's hip hop.
competitiveness.
Yeah,
but again, there's a reason why shit like that happens,
yeah,
and some people
yeah.
could take it. You know, some, when it comes to diss records and shit like that, you can name a few people that have died over diss records. You
Right,
know, and
right.
so it's, I don't know, man. It's a
It's like we're between a rock and a hard place. It's like, how do we change the dynamic of hip hop as a whole so that the younger artists that are getting into the game see it for what it is. It's entertainment.
right, right,
You want to be in this game for a long period of time. You don't want to quote unquote sell your soul. You
right.
also quote unquote don't want to project the kind of image that's not you. You know what I
Right.
mean? I think social media has a real big thing to do with that. I think that because of social
Definitely.
media, that these artists see one thing and they say, "Oh, that's what I wanted. That's what I need to be like to win. I need to be like that to really blow up." Right. And I
Exactly.
think on the flip side of that, I think you have record labels, even though a lot of people are independent now, you still have the major record labels that push a main agenda. They push an
Right.
agenda. They push that agenda. We want violence in the music. We want the women to be overly sexy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want you to have that slut vibe.
Sexualized.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think the labels push that agenda and the kids see that. So when they're looking at they're looking at an artist who's a multi-platinum artist and they're on top of their game. They're not looking at the positive shit. They're just looking
Right.
at the material shit, you
Right.
know.
Right.
they're looking, like I said, they're looking at the money and the jewelry and all of this other stuff, and
Yeah,
they're not looking at anything positive. I think the only way we can change that dynamic is if we as a culture decide to
shifted.
change that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
we
Just got
decide to change that. We
yeah,
decide to the DJs decide to start playing more artists that have something to say as opposed to those that don't. I mean, there's
right.
nothing wrong with going to the club and shaking your ass or going
Oh
to a strip
no,
bar, strip club,
yeah,
whatever. All of that shit
definitely.
is cool. All that
Yeah,
shit is cool. But
yeah,
but at the end of the day, we still have a duty to pass on a message to the people
yeah,
that listen to the music. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Because you know, it was this is a little bit off topic, but it goes to this topic. I was reading there's this guy that does his own vlogs and stuff. He writes pretty interestingly about hip hop. Um, he's talking about the Cardi B, you know, Mega song, you know, the WAP,
Oh, the WAP song,
WAP,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Um, and what he said. It was actually very true. You know, how how can we not see that they're making it okay for women to, you know, degrade themselves
to
basically.
be
um
objectifiable. Right, right,
yeah, yeah, like,
right,
yeah. And then he said something down the line where he's like, you know, and at the same time these are the women that complain about, oh, I'm not just a piece of ass and blah 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 blah, but then it's just like, but
right.
you're making it about, you're making it yourself about that.
Well, sex
And you got to
sells, man.
remember, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
at the same time though, like, it's just like, I wish that hip hop was once again how it used to be, you know, with the black stars, you know, Talib, Mos Def, you know, Dilated People, you know,
Brand Nubian.
yeah, man,
Yeah,
brand
yeah,
new,
yeah,
you know, like,
yeah.
you know, Tribe.
Yeah,
There's,
you got a message. You got and no,
yeah,
and all of those groups that we're talking about from back then, they all talked about getting the skins and whatever, as far as sexual connotations were concerned, they
yeah,
all talked about shit like that, but they also
but
gave
the,
you a message
right,
on the flip side of
yeah,
that too.
exactly.
You know what
Like,
I mean?
it was a balance. There was a
Yeah, it was a
balance,
balance. It was a
you know.
balance.
and
Yeah.
and we didn't I didn't feel like we had enough of that until, you know, and you had Common again too. I think the Resurrection is probably one of my top albums. But
Right.
we had, you know, I feel like we lost that until like people like Joey Badass came into the
Mm,
picture, you
mm,
know, in Pro Era. And
mm.
they were, you know, I felt like I was listening to like a newer generation of Tribe Called Quest when they came
Yeah.
out as a
Yeah.
group, like Pro
I
Era. And
I mean, I'm anybody that knows me know I'm real big on Annoyed from Connecticut. He's
yeah,
a dope lyricist. Nick Grant is a dope lyricist. I mean,
yeah,
there's dudes out there that's really still spitting. They're just not getting the play that everybody else gets. You know what I
right,
mean? And I have to think that that has something to do with the business as a whole. It can't
yeah,
it can't have anything to do with the talent of those artists. It can't.
right, right,
That's impossible because those artists are way too fucking talented. Their
right,
wordplay is ridiculous. Their song structures are dope. Their production is dope.
yeah,
There's no reason why they shouldn't be getting spun on the radio 20 times a day or 30 times a day like everybody else. There's no reason for it.
exactly.
But
You know,
but
you know, perfect example, Griselda. You know, West Side Gun. You know, all them
perfect
cats,
example.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're with the shits too. You
They
know,
with the
they're with the
shits,
shit
but they
too.
giving you
But
jewels
they
in their
still,
music about how
yeah,
they
yeah,
survived the streets and
yeah,
how they survived prison or how they survived the drug game. And
yeah,
now they're flipping it into doing something positive and how they're going to continue that going. So they're giving
exactly,
you jewels from both sides. It's not,
exactly,
it's balanced. Like you said, it's
yeah,
balanced. It's not watered down on one side and more strength on the other. It's
yeah.
balanced. If you
There's a
really listen to
balance.
the music, it's
Yeah,
balanced.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example right there. And of course you can't we can't blame the artists that are moving the way that they're moving. For example, the kids that are doing drill now and all this stuff.
Yeah.
we can't blame them, because that's what the fuck the radio stations and the companies, the major companies, are looking for. That's what
But
they're spinning now.
that's what they like too. I gotta give them a prop because that's what they like. Like when we were coming up and we was doing it, and even like you doing it now, like you know what type of music you want to put out there. You know what type of message you want your music to have. But
Right,
that came from the music that you listened to.
right,
Like I
right,
said, there was a disconnect. So when that disconnect happened, not only did it happen in the streets, it happened with the music too.
right.
Right? It happened with the music too, because there was a whole generation of kids that came up that may not have listened to Tribe Called Quest, or
Right,
they might have just strictly focused on Mobb Deep and Jay-Z and people
yeah,
like that, and they took a lot of the negative connotations within that music and they ran with it.
right,
They didn't necessarily listen to the positive side of some of that stuff and say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this too." You know what I
right,
mean?
right. Yeah,
Um,
no, that makes perfect sense too, though.
yeah, because when
You're
you
right.
talk to a younger artist and you talk to them and you mention somebody like Jay-Z to them, the first thing they say is like, "Oh, he's a great businessman." That's the first thing they see. Like, he's worth $1 billion. He's a great businessman, but
Yeah,
they can't go back and tell you anything about how he gave you both sides of the coin in his music. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
It'll be like critiquing him without uh listening to Reasonable Doubt full.
Yeah,
You know?
that's impossible. Like, you can't do it.
Yeah,
You can't.
exactly. You
You can't do that. If you
can't.
haven't listened to that album and you haven't
You can't say
dissected that
anything
album,
about Hove.
there's no reason to even go further and get into the rest of his shit. You got to
Yeah,
understand the origin of where it comes from.
right,
And I think that disconnect caused that too. A lot of artists now, they just didn't have, you know, I just don't think the hip hop was like the most prevalent thing for them. You know what I mean? Like for us
right.
in the 80s and the 90s, it was still a fresh new art form. So if you were involved and entrenched in the culture, that's all you really cared about. You had to do
Yeah,
something that involved hip hop. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
nowadays, these kids, they want to do anything that involves them getting a bag, which is two totally
right,
different concepts. You
right,
know?
right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I mean, during the '90s, we were still left with a few Afrocentristic um how would I say it, like there was still left with a few Afrocentristic like taste in the music, within the music, because you had people like
Right.
Common, you had people like, you had a lot of great people that were still sharing that positivity.
Yeah.
Again, um, then you had people like NWA, where they came out and they were talking about reckless shit, but it was because it was what they were seeing. It
That's
was
what they, yeah.
what they were
Yeah.
experiencing. And
Mm-hmm.
and again, it nobody called it gangster hip hop. The first people to
The
call it
press,
gangster hip
the
hop was
press the press
when
called it gangster rap. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So you see, so it forms, and then it forms into that. Then
Yeah.
it forms into that. Yeah, there's a lot of gangster rappers, but it wasn't gangster rap.
Right.
It was
Right.
hip hop.
Right.
It
Right. It
was
was hip
still hip
hop.
hop.
Yeah. It
And
was
and
hip
and
hop. Yeah.
and even at the end of the day, you still have, like Murder Was the Case. Perfect song where it's just like a lot of people during that time, especially if you're black or you're brown. What are the possibilities of you beating a murder case?
Yeah.
Slim to
It
none.
go it goes back to the original topic, man. The
Right.
murder and the deaths in hip hop has been going on since the beginning of time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah, like who could fathom that? You know what I mean? Like, who could fathom, somebody at Snoop's level at that time then having to go through a murder trial?
Right.
Same thing with Puff Daddy. Like, who, and Shine. Like, who, you know what I mean? Like, you're at the top of the world. You're at the top of your game, and now you have to deal with a murder that took place on your watch, whether you had something to do with it or not. It took place on your watch, and now you got to deal with the repercussions of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
It's just like this. It's like the other young boy. What's his name? YNW Melly.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I just read something about, they said that they might have some type of recording of him
man. Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
that he killed his
Saying that.
boys. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like who does this shit? You know what I mean? Like, nobody
That's
that
that's
has any kind of any kind of OG talking to him and whispering in his ear is gonna do something like that. First of all, you're not gonna kill off your people. You're just gonna
Exactly.
cut them off and let them see you live a good life. You know, you cut them off
Right.
like that's it. I'm done with you. But then
Right.
to actually kill your boys, I mean,
Yeah.
that's that old, keep your enemy closer type shit. You know what I mean? Or keep your
Yeah.
friends
Yeah.
closer than your enemies. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what that kind of situation is. You
Damn.
know?
That's unfortunate if it's true.
Yeah,
That really is.
yeah.
That's like
It
that
is.
really is like
That's
that's
something
gonna
we
fuck the
didn't
whole
do back in the days either. You don't talk about that kind of shit.
fucking man.
If you if
It's
you if you commit a murder, you do not talk about that shit at all. You
but
don't talk
again,
about
like
it to nobody.
yeah.
No conversation. And if you got a Cody that you did that shit with, you and your Cody know it's between the two of y'all, and y'all ain't gonna never talk
Yeah.
about it again. That's it.
And you know what though? And you know what though? But again, like this is why a lot of fucking, a lot of comedians make fun of hip hop too, as well. Where you had Dave Chappelle do some skits about shit like that, and Key and Peele, where it's like
Right.
basically, oh, you basically, it's okay to rat on yourself. It's okay to like now it's okay to just tell on your fucking self because you want people to be like, oh, this dude is hard.
Yeah,
This
it's
guy
like
is
that
fucking
Joyner
hard. He's
Joyner Lucas.
legit.
Joyner Lucas got a new song out and a new video where he plays both sides of the coin, where it's two different detectives talking to the dude, and he's like, one is telling him to go ahead and snitch, and the other one is telling him not to. You know what I'm
Oh man, I'm
saying?
gonna, I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you gotta. I forget the name of the track, but the video is dope. And it's
but
like
it's true though. That's
it's
how
true. It's
it's
true.
the
Like
truth.
that's what you can see these young boys when they get into that interrogation room. Shit is different. It hit different once you get behind them walls. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
yeah,
it's like you ain't like that image that you tried to portray or that persona or whatever. All that shit's gonna go down the fucking drain, bro. And the real you is gonna come out, and you're gonna either survive or you're
yeah,
not gonna survive. It's one or the other. There's really there's no other way about it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It's one way or the other. Either you're gonna be the prey or you're gonna be the victim. You know what
Right,
I mean?
exactly. And you know what? Like I said, this unfortunate event, these unfortunate events are just due to the whole crab effect, and I feel like we just don't want to see us we don't want to see each other live and win and shit like that. There's a lot of envy, and
Yeah.
one of my favorite episodes from the Boondocks is that one, the El Heriocracy, where they the stink meter, and then they go and they try to kill grandpa just because for no reason. It was just because it was like, I don't want to see,
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. It's sad, and I hope the culture could shift again towards positivity. Of course, like we say, it's fine if you want to go to the club, shake your ass, and make some records about women shaking their asses too. That's
Yeah.
that's all cool.
That's
That's fun too, because I like
that's
to have fun,
that's
and we
all
all
part
do.
of the culture too. Yeah.
Right,
It's all
right.
part of it. Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like the balance is completely gone. In the '90s, we still had balance. We still had a
Yeah.
lot of balance.
Yeah.
Even in the early 2000s, we
And plus
still
you
had.
gotta remember, too, in the 90s, a lot of us grew up and had knowledge of self. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So that's another big thing that's kind of like missing, you know.
yeah,
I recently, heard Busta Rhymes talk about that a lot. You know what I mean? You had Wu-Tang, you had Busta, and you had a lot of artists back in the early 90 days, and they all came, like Brand Nubian, like they all came from having some type of knowledge of self where they was like, yo, I'm not gonna put myself in that kind of position. Like I've been taught
right,
better than that. I know better
right,
than that. You know what I mean?
right.
And I think a lot of these young dudes, like they haven't been taught that they
Yeah,
don't.
there's no
So
structure.
yeah,
Yeah,
so they don't know any better. They
yeah,
only doing what they know. And
right,
it takes the older dudes to pull them to the side and say, yo, man, that's not how you do it. you
right,
know. So I think we
right, right.
definitely need to do that, man. To get back to some type of realism, within the culture as a whole and within the music, and
Absolutely.
and and definitely stop killing our own, man. Like that shit is
Yeah,
that shit
man.
is so
That,
whack.
that's Yeah, bro. It's just like we're taking people that are, that have the potential to, reach other people. These people, w- w- there's a lot of people that idolize them, and it's sad because as normal people, I mean, everyone's normal, but like, let's say, for example, there was somebody that this kid listened to Vaughn and made him change his ways, or somehow,
Hmm.
impacted him, and then now losing him and stuff like that. It's not, things might change for the kids. So what I
Yeah,
mean is that there's a lot of influence that needs to stay, and it gets cut short. And
yeah.
they get cut short, and it's sad because these people basically are like role models,
They have
to
the
a lot
power
of
to they have the power to change the world. You
change.
know what
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly,
And
exactly,
that gets cut short. And like you said,
exactly.
that can affect a lot of kids that looked up to him in one way or the
Yeah,
other. Like we never got to see the evolution of him. You know what I mean?
right,
But because he was talking some good stuff as far as his lyrics and whatnot, and having a message, which is cool, which is what we want. But he was
right.
still talking a lot of street shit too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
as an artist gets older, you start to see them evolve a lot more. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
They're
right,
not. I'm not saying that they're
right,
removed from the hood, because you can still go back and represent your hood. Like that's what you're supposed to do. But after you've been removed
right,
from the
right,
street life for a while, you got to learn how to make that adjustment. You
right.
know,
And that could be very hard.
and yeah,
You
it
you
can
go
be
you
hard.
you go from you go from not having shit at all most of your life to now getting hundreds and thousands of dollars like that.
Hmm.
It's definitely an adjustment that people. I feel like older cats in hip hop, the older artists, people that already like the 50s and all these cats. I feel like they should school these kids that are
Yeah.
come up and
I
coming
think they do.
from
I
the
think they
trenches.
do. I think they take them under their wing. Like I think 50 was talking to Pop Smoke a lot, and took
Yeah,
Pop under his wing in a certain way. I think Pop just slipped up. I think he slipped up when he came out to LA, and you know, supposedly,
yeah,
put his shit on Instagram of where he was or whatever, and
yeah,
supposedly that's probably how the whole thing went down. And I mean, and that may be true. You know what I mean? He might have just made a fucking mistake, man. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's
But I
not
think that there's a lot of these new, these older artists that are trying to take these young artists and put them up under their wing and let them know, like,
right,
look, man, this is how you're gonna survive in this game. You know
right,
what I mean? It's
right,
dog
right.
eat dog, and there's a lot of people that are close to you that don't like you. They don't like to see you winning.
Right.
You know what I
I
mean?
think
So
yeah, I think I remember watching Young and May, an interview that she had done, where she discusses that about she ain't really rocking with her day ones, and she explains a perfect reason why,
mm,
and it made sense, and a lot of people would, uh, I guess, probably get mad, but it's kind of true. It's like if you're not contributing to me, then why the fuck do I still need to be around you? What are
yeah,
you
yeah,
contributing to me?
yeah. If
Like,
you
'cause
part
you're
of
my
my
day
crew,
one, like,
yeah,
yeah,
if you part of my crew, you should have a job to do.
right, right.
Whatever that
You're not just
job
gonna be
is.
standing around or not doing
Exactly.
shit, you know?
One of you should be a cameraman. One of you should be trying to learn a managerial aspect. One of you should be, whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
A videographer or whatever, whatever you want to do.
exactly.
But you should be doing something to contribute to the team. You shouldn't be
Right,
just
right.
sitting there just doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like, because
Exactly,
all money's gonna do is magnify who you already are. That's all it's gonna do. It's not gonna turn you
exactly,
into a different person.
exactly.
All it's gonna do is magnify the person that you already are. People don't change when they get money. They just become the bigger version of themselves. That's all it is.
Right,
You know, and if you got people around you that that are not making money, at some point there's gonna be some type of jealousy. Like they said,
absolutely.
if you don't feed the wolves are gonna come eat regardless.
Yeah,
But then you
yeah,
also don't want to get stuck in a situation where you're constantly feeding and feeding and feeding and feeding the wolves, and they feel like, oh, I got this coming, I deserve this. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Because everybody, you don't deserve that. Everybody deserves the opportunity to get off your ass and do something and work. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Exactly.
And contribute to what we
Exactly.
building. If we building something as a team, then what's your contribution? What are you bringing to the table? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? That's what this
Like
shit boils down
you're
to.
not just gonna be around me because you've been my homie since fucking the kindergarten. Nah, like
Nah, nah.
you gotta be
If
able to.
anything, I'm gonna give you some startup money, and you're gonna do something. If it's something different from what I'm doing that you want to do, I'm gonna support that vision.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I'm
definitely.
gonna help you. I'm gonna help you get it started. Once I get you started on your feet, the rest is on you, bro. You
Yeah,
gotta do. You gotta make it work. You
yeah.
know what I mean? I mean,
I'm not gonna
it's like,
I'm not gonna be no fucking like fallback support plan and shit like that. Nah.
yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. And I think that's where the envy comes, and that's why a lot of shit ends up happening the way it happens
Yeah,
with these
yeah,
people. Going back to the Nipsey Hussle murder, like it has the rumors again, like how you say we can't really speculate, we're not in there.
right.
But the rumor is that he supposedly wanted to get put on, like he's trying to give him like a fucking mixtape or some shit like that, or he's been trying to holler at him for some work for music, and
Right.
it said what he did,
Yeah. He took
and
that shit
again,
offensively or whatever, and he ran with it.
yeah.
But
So
I mean, if Nipsey getting hit doesn't tell you that anybody can get hit, that should tell you automatically, like once you reach a certain point in this game, it's not about street credibility ain't no more anymore. It's about you occupying your safety for your family. You know what I mean? You need to
exactly,
be safe for your family. And if that means that you need to
exactly,
if that means that you need to get security, then get security. If not, you may need to, you know, pay a homeboy to learn security. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, you go to
right,
security school, you carry a legal weapon. That's your job. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's your job. That's what you get paid for. And it ain't about being no sucker or no punk. It's about your longevity, man.
right,
You know what I'm saying? That's what it boils down to, man.
exactly,
Definitely.
exactly, bro.
But
Yeah,
my
and
brother,
like I,
yeah, this has been an incredible conversation.
definitely, bro,
this is
definitely.
what the essence is all about. You know what I mean? I'm definitely gonna keep bringing you in on shows, man, because I always enjoy your perspective. Because you're a young dude with an OG's
Yeah,
mindset. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, man. I get that a lot. I get that a lot. And again, it has to do with I'm the youngest one in my family. My older brothers and sisters. My sister was obsessed with Pac, man. She was like
right.
15 years old at the time. She was the one that put me on everything, man. And it was just kind of like, so I
That's what it
definitely know.
is.
That's my era. This is not my, no 2000s, not my, nah. 90s is my era.
That's what it is. Yo, this is Validated Radio. I'm your host, KB Tindal, my man, MC Abe. This is The
Hey,
Essence, and we will catch y'all on the next one, bro. We out.
and thank you for having me, bro. Thank you.
Absolutely.